episode of Our Way Home today, featuring special guest Sam Torak, who I connected with on Facebook. Actually, connected on Facebook, a fellow landlord, fellow real estate investor. So we'll hear her story. Very excited to get into it, but I always have to give the spiel here, Sam. As we get started with going live, people get the notification, they tune in, start to see. So they're going to hear your story. And guys, as you have questions, if you have questions for Sam, she'll be tagged in here. You can just comment them, or you can feel free to DM us if there's anything you want to ask or learn more about as a follow-up. So keep that in mind as we go. All right. So Sam, you bought this was your first home purchase in February of 2020?
Yep.
Right before the world went upside down, crazy. So you bought February 2020 in Philly.
Yes.
For you, I got to ask, the first thing is just, how the heck was it? That must have been a wild experience, your first few months owning a home for the first time. So
Yeah, it was actually perfect timing because since the world closed down and I had nothing in my house and I had to, put things in my house, it was the perfect time to do all my online shopping on Amazon and buy my furniture and, buy my decorations and put everything together. So it was actually very good timing in that sort of way, to be honest. I had a lot of free time on my hands, so.
yes, and with something to actually do. So, everybody else was going crazy. Like, what am I going to do?
Yeah, I was definitely very occupied. It was actually not too bad because I had a lot to do, so that was good.
I love it. What section of Philly?
I'm in Point Breeze.
Point Breeze. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, me too.
Oh,
Point
nice.
Breeze. Love it. What is your favorite part of your house, or what was your favorite part of your house when you first bought it?
Well, I guess I love my rooftop because that was just a nice place to go. It was nice and quiet. I had a beautiful view of the city. I could just sit up there and just kind of be myself and I don't know, just kind of have my thoughts. But when you first walk into my house too, there's a really pretty brick siding on the side of the first area where you walk in and you go up the stairs. There's a really pretty brick wall. And then there's a really nice, I have a little fireplace with a wood mantle. So I think those are my favorite two things kind of when you walk into the house. It's a little bit different than your normal townhouse, new construction home in South Philly. So
Nice. Things that make it stand out.
Yeah.
Drew you to it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it was definitely because, I looked at a ton of different townhouses all around Philly, and a lot of them are the same. You walk in, you have the living room, the kitchen in the back, the stairs. But having those two extra, the brick wall and the fireplace with the wood mantle, just made it a little different than the others, made it a little more homey. So
Yes, for sure. That's a nice touch.
Yeah.
So when you're going through this process, how did you go about finding and choosing your real estate agent?
Yeah, so I think I started looking at houses a year before I bought my house. I was just going on Facebook and there was this big thing about new apartments that were being built on South Street, and I was just like, "Oh, I'll just message on, this little Facebook thing just to see what the costs were and things like that." I mean, these apartments were way above my budget for buying a house, but when the person who was connected me with a real estate person, and she right away just emailed me and asked me to go to get coffee, not to do anything, but just to talk, just to see what I wanted and needed. And I thought that was perfect because I had no idea what I was doing. So she could she answered a lot of my questions, not just about buying a house, but what are the next steps about doing a mortgage, the closing day, all those things. I had no idea what I was doing. So it was just nice to she wasn't trying to sell me anything, just kind of walked me through the steps of buying a house. And then after that, she would just, maybe on once a week would just send me different houses that were up for sale. And then eventually I decided to, reach out to her and we started looking at houses. And then I found the house I really liked and it went from there.
Very nice. Very nice.
Yeah.
What would you say was that seems like it was pretty pretty easy, smooth, like worked out.
Yeah, it definitely was. It seemed like Carolyn was good. She was my real estate agent. She works for OCF Realty. I think she's branching off to do her own thing now. But she was just very good at kind of like talking to me like I don't know anything, which is what I needed. And it made it, yeah, really easy to, just to ask any questions that I thought were stupid too. So
Yeah, that's awesome. That's right. No, you have to remember, no stupid questions. Anyone listening, it's never a stupid question, because how are you going to know if you've never gone through something before?
right,
So,
exactly.
now, what was one of the more difficult parts of the process for you?
I guess when it got to like when I put in my offer and then the next steps of that, I guess going through like, all the different parts of the mortgage, like what does this cost? What does this cost? Going back and forth with the seller saying like if I wanted certain things or kind of going back and forth on a cost or like what I wanted changed or anything like that, just kind of making those types of decisions were a little tough, I guess. Trying to think what else. That was probably the most difficult thing for me because again, I just didn't know really what I was doing. But as I went through the process, asking questions to Carolyn, working with the mortgage person she set me up with, what made it, smoother. So that was good.
Okay, nice. So nothing too bad, but a little when you're going through it for the first time, it can be overwhelming.
Yeah, and I guess just trying to figure out what my priorities were in a house. I mean, I had certain things I wanted, but sometimes you don't know until you actually live in the house, I guess. Like I don't know where things are in the house. Like my washing machine's on the bottom floor. Sometimes I wish it was like on a higher floor. I mean, that's not a priority for me, but just small little things like that, not really knowing what I should prioritize and not prioritize, I think. So that may help me, at some point in the future when I buy another home. But it wasn't too bad.
That's a great point. People get stuck on overthinking and,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe getting like analysis paralysis where they can't make a decision because there's a lot of things you have to decide on when going through the process.
Yeah, definitely. But definitely having someone to guide you through and answering all those questions for you definitely made the situation a lot easier. And I relied on like, other people that, went through this process. I talked to my parents a lot about it. I talked to I had one or two friends who had gone through the process before, and that made it easier too.
Okay, great. Yes, using people just as like a sounding board almost to get your thoughts out and see what they think and help you
Yeah,
come to a
definitely.
decision.
Yeah,
Yes.
definitely.
Were there some fees that you didn't expect?
Yes. Especially the biggest thing, just specifically living in Philadelphia, was just some of the taxes that are thrown in. I forget exactly, but I think one of the like transfer tax or something that it's called. I think it was about like 8% of the, total cost of the home or something like that. That was, much more than I thought it was. And there were a few other smaller things that, also were more than I thought. Yeah, the closing costs were definitely a lot more than I thought. But I mean, I guess it's just what you have to do to buy a house these days, unfortunately. But specifically in Philadelphia, I think it was that transfer tax that really put me through a loop.
Transfer tax is a lot in Philadelphia. It's not quite 8%. It's closer to
Okay,
like
yeah, I can
a
remember.
little over 4%.
Okay.
Um, and you will split it with the seller, but it still is a lot. It's a lot of money.
Yeah.
It adds up on there. You see that sheet with all the fees on it?
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
can be a lot.
Yeah. But I think it definitely, you think about renting versus like, owning a house. And I feel like in the long run, it definitely makes more sense to just pay that transfer tax, own your house, than just throwing your money away, renting a place, so.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. Was there questions you wish you had asked sooner or in the very beginning that you didn't ask towards the end?
Um, I guess, I mean, just as I'm in the process of moving out of my house now and finding renters for my home. So I'm going through it now and, trying to figure out like what or is there anything that I need to, fix before I have potential renters come in? So I guess, specifically for flat top roofs, I guess just maybe asking more questions about like long-term, maintenance for certain things and how I can keep up with, managing things, getting in front of something before it becomes a bigger problem, I guess, where I have to throw a lot more money in it, I guess, in the beginning. And maybe just educating myself a little bit more on like, HVAC systems and, normal things about, houses that, I didn't know how an HVAC system worked before I moved into my home. So just kind of maybe educating myself a little better on, normal types of things that you have in a house that, having knowledge about it may help you fix things and work with people coming in to fix problems that may make things a
Mhm.
little easier too.
Great point. You can, like, take notes during, like, your inspection is good to ask a lot of those questions.
Yeah.
Home inspector goes through and is, like, evaluating everything. But
Mhm.
also, what you're talking about is kinda like your almost like your exit strategy for the house. So, people don't think about that. They just think about, "Well, I need to move by this time, and I need to live in the house." But, a lot of factors go into it, and it depending on your when you plan to leave the house or how you plan to leave the house, are you
Mhm.
definitely gonna like, some people have no appetite to do what you're doing. Get
Mhm.
a tenant in there, rent it out, hold the property, manage it. Some
Yeah.
people are like, "No, I will never do that. I must, like, sell it." Okay, how many years do you think you're gonna probably stay there? Is it 5, 10? No end in sight. So thinking about those things will help when you're making that upfront decision. How much money should you put down? Should you go with down payment assistance programs? Like, these things
Oh
can
yeah, for sure. And
Sorry.
speaking on that, like I had, a roommate for I've lived there for 4 years. I've had a roommate for about 3 years since I lived there. So that's another thing to take in consideration when doing your down payment. Like, do you want to have someone live with you to help pay for your mortgage? And in that case, you want to put
Yes,
less money down. Um
yes.
or, if you want to live there long term, do you want an older home where older versus a newer home where you have to pay attention more to some of the utilities that may break down and you may have to pay for? Do you want to have the house long enough to have to, pay to fix these things? Or are you trying to find a home where you want to live in for a short period of time and not have to worry about those things as much? And those are definitely things to consider too. I wasn't completely sure what I was going to do when I, bought my house too. Sometimes it's hard to tell because you don't know where life's going to take you sometimes. But
Yeah,
yeah, I'm excited to try and rent it out. I have renters moving in a couple weeks and I'm a little nervous, but I'm trying to, be the landlord by myself, see how
yes!
it works. And if it doesn't, if I'm too overwhelmed, I'm just gonna hire a property management company.
There you go. There's always options, and, like, we have the internet. There's so many resources
Yeah,
out there.
yeah, yeah, it depends on the type of problem, and yeah, exactly. I can definitely manage, kind of easy superficial things, and if it's something that's too complicated, that's another thing. My real estate agent, Carolyn, I'll rely on her to kind of give me some recommendations of people if they need to go, look or fix something, when the renters are there, so.
That is a great point. Yeah, go back to the team that originally helped you as a resource, as sort of like a super connector for further things you're gonna need down the line.
Mhm.
Well, good for you. I
Thank
think
you.
listen, a lot of people, like, they get nervous, but it's like people that person over there could be a landlord, you could be a landlord, you know? Why not?
Yeah, yeah, you gotta rip off the Band-Aid and just try it out, and then if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. I'm excited to just try and have an extra form of income, from renting my place and see how it works, and I'll just go from there.
Exactly. Have you done the calculation to see about how much profit it'll bring in? Like, how much is the rent versus the mortgage?
Yeah, yeah. I kind of base my rent payment off of just what other homes seem to be going for in the neighborhood. And yeah, I will get a substantial amount of money extra outside of my mortgage. So I'm excited for that. So
Amazing. And you were even house hacking from the beginning with the roommate.
yeah,
So, all
yeah,
good
yeah,
things.
yeah.
So, all right. Take it back to now it's February January or February of 2020.
Mhm.
You work with Carolyn, you're looking at properties. How did you know that it was time to make the offer on this house?
Well, because it was a new construction house, there wasn't too much to have to negotiate. Is that what you're asking? Like, how did I know? Like, when did I say, yes, I'll accept this offer?
Yeah, or
Yeah.
even put in the offer, like,
Oh, put in
you
the
know that
offer.
that was the house, that was the one you wanted.
I'm trying to remember. Um, I mean, the house was out for maybe a couple months now. I bought the house in the winter time. So there wasn't I didn't think that there was a lot of other people who were, looking for a house just because of the time of the year. So I wasn't super stressed about putting in an offer, but at the same time, I did have that I had like a mess, someone telling me in the back of my head that like you never know who's looking for that house. Too, someone else could be trying to put it in an offer at any time. So I wasn't really super stressed out about it because I was renting a place also in Philly at that time, and I think my lease was up at the end of March, so I had a couple months to kind of figure it out, and I was just basically just trying to time it so I could move into my house around the time that my lease was up where I was renting. So that was kind of the biggest factor for me, was just getting that timing right.
Okay, and did you consider, like, before choosing this one, did you consider a couple, or was it really just, like, this one stuck out from the rest?
This was the only one that I put an offer into. There were a couple other ones that I was looking at. I was pretty sold on the Point Breeze area because when I was renting, I was living on South Street in like the Graduate Hospital area, and I didn't want to go much further from there. I did look at it a lot of. I was looking just at new construction houses,
Okay.
and new construction houses can definitely, vary, on the type of construction, on how they were built and things like that. But this was honestly the first house that I wanted to put an offer in. So it really, you know, I looked at a lot of houses. I looked at a lot of houses, and this was, like I said before, everything went really smooth. I wanted this house. I put an offer in, and they accepted it, and it just went from there.
Nice. Okay, so you talked about it a little bit with, starting in the beginning of the year, your lease was up in March. Do you remember roughly, just to give people an idea of, like, what the timeline was from start to finish, like, first
Mhm.
thinking about, "I'm gonna buy a house," to all the way getting the keys?
Yeah, I mean, the first when I like was looking on Facebook and connected with Carolyn, that was probably like I'm gonna say like spring or summer of 2019. And then I think I started looking at houses in the fall. And then and I did start looking at houses in other neighborhoods. Like I looked in Fishtown, I looked in like Dickinson Narrows. I looked in a lot of areas. And then I think, yeah, I put my offer in no, I actually put my offer in December, and I was able to negotiate a 60-day what's that period called? From when they accepted it to the closing date, I had 60 days because I wanted to stretch it out because of when my lease was up on my rent, my where I was renting. So I think in December, actually end of November, they accepted it because then end
Yeah.
December.
No,
No, I'm
no.
sorry, end of December. I'm sorry, end of December was when I put my offer in, and then end of February was the closing date. So yeah, so I put my offer in December, and then the closing date was end of February. Yeah. It was a long
Nice.
time. It was a long time.
Okay. Do you remember how many houses you looked at?
I probably
20?
looked at like 15 or 20 houses.
Wow.
Yeah, I looked at a lot. But that was the thing because I had a lot of time because so there was no rush or anything. And I don't know. I just I guess
Well, you
I
can't.
knew what I was looking for, and when I saw it, I wanted it. So
Yes. Sometimes that's the hardest part, and, like, maybe it's good that people need to know, like, how much time it takes because they should give
Mhm.
themselves time, like,
Oh
it doesn't
yeah.
hurt to connect, like, you connected for coffee and then you, like, took your time, it was no pressure. You wanna give yourself time to, like, vet people and see who you really like and wanna work with. Then you
Mhm.
wanna give yourself time to, like, browse houses casually,
Oh, yeah,
And talk about your
definitely.
budget too. Like, at what
Oh,
point
yeah.
did you go through, like, the pre-approval and talk through your budget? Was it in the summer or was it closer to the fall?
I think it was in the fall I started talking about my budget, and then I got pre-approved for a mortgage, probably, like, early fall, late summer, I think.
Okay.
And I definitely looked at a wide range of, costs of houses too, but I was happy with the price that I paid for the house, I think, especially since I had renters. I mean, if I didn't have renters, it would have been a different story, I think. I think I could have pulled off paying for my mortgage still, but it definitely made things a lot more comfortable when I had the renters.
That's great to consider, like, to when you're getting
Or when I
'cause
had when I had someone living with me, the
yeah,
renters being
like a
someone
house
living
hack.
with me paying half my mortgage. Yeah.
Yeah, like, they were renting a room from you, essentially,
Yes. Yeah,
helping you
exactly.
pay down your mortgage
Yeah.
every
Yeah.
month, which is fantastic. I have a friend that did that, she was already living with 2 other roommates. They were all living together, and she bought the house they were living in from their landlord.
Oh, perfect.
So she
Yeah.
just assumed the cost she assumed the house, and she assumed the roommates too,
Oh, that's
so
awesome.
they all chipped in. But
Cool.
that's a good, advice as well because people don't really know that when you get approved for a mortgage, it's based on your monthly payment, what your monthly payment's gonna be.
Mhm.
How does that fit in line with how much income you have coming in every
Mhm.
month?
Yeah.
It's based on your gross income.
Mhm.
So before taxes are taken out,
Mhm.
before your health insurance or 401(k) or all that stuff's taken out of your paychecks.
Yeah.
So
I definitely will say I was pre-approved for if I paid the monthly mortgage of the max amount that I was pre-approved for, it would have been very difficult.
yeah,
Yeah. So even though you're pre-approved for something doesn't necessarily mean you'll still feel comfortable paying it for all the necessities and, the things you want and need in your life. You definitely have to like think about that for sure.
that's right. Like, I had someone talking to me tonight, a client saying, "Well, I want a lower payment because I have other things, like, I have to go buy clothes and gas and pay my car insurance and
Mhm.
buy food," like, so all these other your Netflix bill, like, your Amazon
Right.
Prime bill, so all these things go into your cumulative monthly budget, and
Yeah, right. The pre-approval process does not take into consideration all of your other bills that you're paying for the most part. So, that's
yep.
definitely something to keep in mind is kinda, even though you're pre-approved for something, you still have to, like, do your own math and figure out if this is gonna work for you or not.
Yes, exactly. So really come to the table with that number that you're comfortable with, and, like, people can use, like, or the rent that they're paying right now. Okay, cool. You're paying 2,100 now in rent. Could you stretch it a little bit, or are you
Mhm.
already maxed out?
Mhm.
And if you don't have a budget, like, there are spreadsheets out there, you can just Google it or something, and find, like, a budgeting spreadsheet where you can fill in
Mhm.
all of your items.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely did that too. I think that another one of the things I was surprised about was how much like, if you do a fixed income or a fixed interest rate, how much interest you pay in the beginning compared to the principal. That threw me for a loop too. I had no idea how much interest you pay in the beginning. But at the very least, I also, the principal that I pay, I tell myself too, I will get that back eventually. That's not like money I'm throwing away. So I definitely take that in consideration with my budgeting too, that that's some money that I'll get back, but the money you pay towards the interest, you're not going to get back. And, you
Yeah,
know,
that's
so.
true. Your down payment, that's any money you put up front, you're getting that back. Um,
Mhm.
the principal you pay down every month, yes, you're getting that back. And then
Mhm.
over time too, like, you pay this much interest, but over time, the principal becomes more, 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 more
Right.
the longer.
Right. And that's another thing to take in consideration too. Like, the principal more than the interest if you're going to you have to own the house for a long period of time to get to that point, right? So that's another reason to think about your down payment too, if have the house for a while versus not, that can affect how much money you put down too.
That's right. Do you wanna have a lot of, like, equity up front? Probably. And when you talk about like paying down the principal, what you're doing is paying into your equity, or how much you own versus how much the bank or the lender owns. You're back.
Me now
Yeah. Can you see me?
for a little bit. Okay. Okay.
The internet, it loves us.
I think we're back on though.
This happened recently too, where we actually had to end the whole thing and then start it again. So if if that happens, well, we're good. We're good.
Okay.
We're good. Cool. All right. So very good stuff. Very good stuff. Helpful for anyone listening, I'm sure. So a last question here, kind of twofold. Why is homeownership important to you?
Well, the biggest thing that I was really excited about was the fact that I bought my house all by myself as an independent lady. You work hard for it. You work hard for it, like you go to work, you save money, you put it towards a goal. And I was wanted to buy my house for a really, really, really long time. So that was like the biggest thing for me. Um, hold on. Repeat the question again.
Oh, no, why is it important to you? Why is
Oh,
homeownership
yes.
important?
Okay. Yeah. Sorry. Yes. I had to remember where I was going with that. Yes. That was like the biggest thing for me. It's just, being, making this decision and putting, my hard work towards something that I can be excited about. And also just building equity for myself, just to have some sort of investment in something. And I think buying a house is definitely a great way to do that. So I think those were the two biggest reasons why I wanted to buy a house. And also just to like have more pride in my house, like when I was renting, I didn't care as much about like, you know, things about the house, like the wall, the paint color and, the status of the utilities, the refrigerator. I didn't care about any of that stuff. And I care so much more about my house and I just take a lot of pride in it. So
And that feels special. That's
yeah.
nice. That's an important part of life, is like having something you're proud of, you care about, and it's an asset that's growing for you over time. It's just
Mhm.
it's getting higher in value, building your wealth.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
So what are your plans for the next 5-ish years?
Yeah, so I have renters moving in about 2 to 3 weeks. So, I'm hoping to continue to rent my house. I have a really nice couple that I'm really excited about, that is excited about hospitality. They're from the South and they like having, one person, renting from and having a good relationship with. So I'm excited about that. I am moving in with my fiance in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. That's where I am right now. So
Very
every
nice.
day I've been just taking bags from my house in Philly to Cherry Hill. It's just been lots of bags, but it's been good. I work in Philadelphia at Penn, so I'm still going to be in Philadelphia. And yeah, that's the plan right now. Get married, hopefully have some kids, maybe, use this Cherry Hill spot as another rental property at some point and buy, another house in New Jersey at some point. And then at some point, sell my home in Philadelphia and go from there.
And
That's kind
take
of the
all that
plan right
cash
now.
and do what you want with it.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the general plan right now, but we'll see how everything goes.
Very good. And when are you guys getting married?
April 26, 2025.
Oh, nice. So you have like a whole year plus.
Yeah, we just got engaged a couple months ago. So it's all got a lot of things going on right now.
Yay.
Moving, planning a wedding. So all fun things though.
All fun things. Yeah, take your time, enjoy every moment.
Yeah, thank you.
That'll be awesome. All
Thanks.
right, last words here before we log off. Advice you would give to people, or just general feelings about people who are maybe considering buying but feeling a little overwhelmed.
Yeah, definitely do your research and give yourself plenty of time and don't be afraid to ask for help from anyone because like me, as you can see, I love talking about my house and I get excited about it and I love answering people's questions about it. So basically, yeah, just do your research and just get pumped up and excited because it is a really exciting time to, buy a home, specifically your first house. And just, yeah, making sure you have trust, in your real estate agent and, your mortgage company and all the people that you're working with.
That's great advice. And also for landlords out there, can also maybe hit you up. Maybe they're going through the process for the first time.
Oh yeah. Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Yeah, I talked to one of my friends who is a landlord for one of her houses too. And it goes a long way. Just talking to people that you can trust and know that they will give you like good, honest feedback is very helpful.
That's great. Yeah. We'll have to circle back with you in like 6 months, see how it's going.
Yeah, definitely. That sounds good.
Landlord.
Yes.
That is awesome. Very good stuff. Very good stuff. Well, thank you, Sam. Um, I really appreciate you taking the time, sharing your story. Super helpful for people to hear from you recently going through the experience. So,
Yeah, no problem. I'm happy to talk about my house. As I said, it's very exciting.
guys, and you should be excited and you should feel
Yes.
very proud
Yes.
about it because it is a huge
Yes. It's a big deal. It's a big deal. So anyone that buys a house, it's very impressive and very exciting.
definitely. Yes. So give yourself a little pat on the
Oh,
back there.
yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much, everyone. We're going to sign off and you can still comment here to Sam if you have follow-up questions or DM us. Have a great night and we'll